Well, just a couple of minutes ago, if you were with us, we talked about the latest GDP report that showed that the U.S. economy actually grew by about 2.6% annually. This is coming after two straight periods of contraction. Hey, we actually had some good news for once. But that being said, I'm sure a lot of you are going, especially to the grocery store, and looking at the prices and saying, how is this good news affecting me? Inflation's still a big, big problem. We've got to stretch those dollars. And here to talk more about what you can do, I'm happy to have Dennis Harrigan from Connecticut Wealth Management, just to talk about all these things in general. Good to have you here,
Thanks,
sir.
Good to be here. Thanks.
Glad to have you here. First of all, what did you make of that report that just came out about the GDP?
You know, when these reports come out, this was the third quarter GDP number, and you get a little bit nervous because in the perverse nature of markets and economy, bad news is typically good news for the markets, and good news is typically bad news for the markets. So what we're in this state right now where if we hear the economy is growing too fast, that means the Fed's going to have to jack up interest rates. That's bad for the markets. The number today was a little bit confusing, honestly. The what they call the PCE deflator was actually pretty kind. GDP was stronger than expected.
Yeah.
It's kind of the Goldilocks scenario. You're seeing markets rally already this morning, so it appears to be good news, at least in the short term.
Yes. All right. But for the day-to-day purchases we have to make, inflation is still the biggest thing here. Not that this necessarily ties into what we're talking about, but when they do these inflation gauges, they also take into account sometimes what they call with sort of chain inflation. That means people make substitutions. They're not always buying the same things if they go up enough necessarily. And that sort of leads us into maybe what substitutions people can make on a day-to-day basis with their food, with their travel plans, to try to sort of ease the burn a little bit.
Yeah. Well, you had a report earlier about what's happening with the airlines.
Yeah.
And you're seeing, I think the number of complaints was up 340%.
320?
320, yeah.
A lot.
It's not
How
good.
about that? Yeah,
It's
a
not good.
boatload.
Yeah. So the cost of travel has actually gone up. Cost of flights have gone up. So you're seeing people start to substitute travel abroad with maybe staying here in the States.
Yeah.
Maybe somewhere you can drive to. So that's one way you can kind of make a substitution. Another one is, I was just looking this morning, the cost of coffee at Starbucks has gone up 20% in the past year. I don't know, maybe you go to Dunkin' Donuts, or you go somewhere else where it's cheaper.
Yeah.
There are all sorts of ways to make substitutions. The general CPI number uses meat. Meat has gotten way more expensive. People are now substituting for chicken.
Yeah.
So you're actually seeing people make real world decisions to try to make their dollar, as you said, stretch it a little bit further. The impact of inflation has been, it costs about $500 more per month for everyone to live in the United States right now than it did a year ago. That's 500 actual dollars that it costs.
That's a
people
car payment.
That's a car payment. And actually gas prices have, right? So that's another substitution is gas prices. Gas prices are down now from where they were. They're about $3.50 right now. They peaked at $5 in the summertime.
Yeah.
You're seeing a huge demand for electric cars, electric vehicles, to the point where you can't even get one.
Which is amazing to see. We've had some friends and coworkers that have had some problems with that. What other general budgetary concerns should we, I don't know, concerns is the right word, but just to try to be mindful of your budget outside of the food, outside of the travel, what else can we do?
Well, there's a little bit of good news, believe it or not. The good news is savings rates and CD rates, which have been close to zero for the last 5 years or so, are actually positive now. So it's about 2.5%. You can even get a CD for 4%. So that's good. Social Security is going up next year by 8%, so that's very good news. But I do think people need to pay really close attention to things like credit card debt. Credit card debt charges interest on a variable rate, meaning as the Fed raises rates, your cost to carry that balance on your credit card is going to go up.
Yeah.
So be really mindful of that. And I would also be careful of even a home equity line of credit because those rates have gone up too. Any
specific advice for people who are right near retirement and can't really afford a huge market downturn right now because they don't have a lot of time to make it up?
Well, the face of retirement has changed in the past 5-7 years, certainly in the last 2 years, where a lot of folks would kind of take this step into the great abyss of retirement, stop working permanently, and have no income after they walked away from their job. People are kind of easing into retirement now, where they might be working part-time with their employer. They might take on a new job. That's a really good way to soften the impact of a market correction like this. But make no mistake about it, it's a big problem. We at Connecticut Wealth Management, this may not surprise you, are big proponents of financial planning.
Of course.
So meeting with a CFP to kind of do a dress rehearsal of what retirement might look like. and how are you going to be able to pay your bills. And the dress rehearsal might include, what if the markets were to go down 25% and inflation were to go up 8%? Because it happens.
Yeah,
it does happen.
It happens. In a healthy market, it's going to happen every X number of years. Not that you would know these things, because if you could, then it wouldn't happen. That's how the markets work. Either way, Dennis, thank you so much for taking the time to try to simplify a lot of very complicated concepts that make my brain go. So, thank you so much, Dennis.
Thanks.
All right, over to Matt.